The restaurant was almost empty that Thursday evening, except for the soft clinking of silverware and a few scattered conversations. Emma sat alone at a corner table, twisting her napkin nervously, glancing at the clock every few seconds. She had agreed to a blind date through a friend, someone they swore was perfect for her. But as the minutes ticked by, a sinking feeling settled in her chest. Half an hour past the meeting time, Emma's phone buzzed. A text from her date, running late, sorry. See you soon. She smiled faintly, hoping this was just a minor delay. Still, when the waiter set down her glass of water, she couldn't help but glance around the empty room. Then the door swung open and two little girls ran inside. Identical curls bouncing, dresses slightly rumpled from the ride. They marched straight to Emma's table. "My daddy's sorry he's late," the older twin said. Barely 7, her big brown eyes earnest and shining. Her sister nodded solemnly beside her. Emma blinked, startled. "Oh, hi, are you here with someone?" "Yes," the younger one said. "Daddy had to fix our bike. We told him we'd be your helpers." Emma laughed softly, unsure if she should be amused or concerned. "Helpers?" The girls giggled, plopping into the chairs across from her as if they'd been part of the plan all along. Emma looked at them, noticing the tiny freckles on their noses, the mismatched socks peeking out from their shoes, the way their eyes lit up with trust and warmth. A few minutes later, the restaurant door opened again. Their father, breathless and slightly disheveled, came in. He looked like someone who had just sprinted through every possible obstacle to be there on time. "Girls," he said, kneeling to hug them. Then his gaze landed on Emma. "Emma, I am so sorry for being late." Emma saw it then, the genuine remorse, the nervous energy, the kindness in his eyes. He looked like a man who would drop everything to make someone feel cared for. The twins, sensing the tension, jumped up and introduced themselves properly. "I'm Lily," said the older. "This is Rosie." Over the next hour, what had started as a potentially awkward blind date turned into a small, warm circle of laughter. Emma listened as the father recounted a minor disaster. The twins had accidentally broken a wheel on their bike, and he had spent the last 20 minutes fixing it. She laughed at the story, but what struck her most was the way he had made time to be present for both his daughters and the date he hadn't wanted to miss. By the end of dinner, Emma realized something unexpected. The date she had feared might be awkward had turned into a moment of human connection so rare, it felt almost magical. She saw the father's kindness not only to his children, but also in the way he had tried to make amends for being late, and she felt her own heart swell with warmth. As they walked out of the restaurant, the twins holding each of their hands, Emma felt a gentle truth settle inside her. Sometimes, love shows up in little unexpected ways. Sometimes it walks in on tiny feet with curls and freckles, carrying a message that even the smallest gestures of care can make the biggest impact. And as they stood outside, the city lights reflecting in the twins' sparkling eyes, Emma realized this blind date wasn't about perfection, timing, or expectation. It was about connection, compassion, and the quiet courage it takes to care for others even when life doesn't go perfectly. That night, Emma walked home with a lighter heart. She had come expecting an ordinary date, but instead, she had witnessed a little miracle, the reminder that kindness and love, whether from a parent, a stranger, or even two little girls, can change the course of a moment, and maybe even a life. Emma walked alongside the twins and their father, her mind still replaying the laughter and small moments from dinner. As they reached the sidewalk, Lily tugged at her father's hand. "Daddy," she said, looking up at him with wide eyes. "Emma is really nice. Can she come over and play with us next weekend?" The father chuckled, ruffling her curls. "I think that's a wonderful idea." Then he looked at Emma, a warm smile spreading across his face. "I hope you don't mind. They're very enthusiastic about new friends." "I'd love to," Emma replied, feeling a genuine warmth blossom in her chest. Rosie leaned against Emma's arm, whispering, "You smell like cookies. Do you bake?" Emma laughed softly. "I do, actually. Maybe next weekend I can bring some cookies for you both." The twins squealed in delight, and Emma felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time in a long while, She realized that meaningful connections weren't always planned or perfectly timed. They sometimes arrived in messy, unexpected packages, like two little girls running into a quiet restaurant. As they said their goodbyes and Emma headed home, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her friend who had set up the blind date. "So, how was it?" Emma stared at the message, smiling. She typed back, "Better than I could have imagined. Turns out the best surprises come in pairs, and sometimes with a little chaos." That night, as she prepared for bed, Emma reflected on the evening. She thought about the father's dedication, the twins' innocent honesty, and the warmth that had filled the room. And she realized that life's unexpected moments, like the surprise arrival of two little girls, could create connections that were far more meaningful than anything she could have planned. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt hopeful. Hopeful not just for new relationships, but for the simple, quiet acts of kindness that reminded her how good the world could be. She drifted to sleep with a smile, knowing that sometimes love doesn't show up in perfect timing. It shows up exactly when it's needed most. The next weekend, Emma arrived at the father's house carrying a small basket of freshly baked cookies. She felt a flutter of nerves, unsure what to expect. But the moment the twins opened the door, all her worries melted away. "Emma!" Lily and Rosie shouted in unison, racing to give her a hug. They smelled the cookies instantly and squealed with delight. Their father, 32 male, wearing a casual hoodie and jeans, smiled warmly from the doorway. "Thank you for coming, Emma. The girls have been talking about this all week." Inside, the house was cozy and full of life. Tiny drawings stuck to the fridge, a small stack of board games on the table, and laughter bouncing off the walls. Emma felt instantly at ease. Over cookies and hot